Welcome back to Living Our Vision. Today, we're going to go to our storage unit.
Oh, fun.
And we're also going to have a little conversation with Kimberly from Campground Membership Outlet. We've had the Thousand Trails membership for 3 years now. As a lot of you know, there's not a lot of Thousand Trails in the middle part of America. But what if there was something similar to Thousand Trails that you could use in the middle part of America?
That would help us out a lot.
Oh yeah, forgot to mention the part that our cell service kind of stunk over at TTO, so we couldn't even do a Zoom meeting over there. All right, shall we start the meeting?
Yes.
Let's call Kim.
Okay.
I see the words Kimmy. Is Kimmy
She's
behind those
connecting
words?
to audio and can't hear you yet. Ah, there.
There she
Can you
is.
hear us?
Oh my gosh, we did it!
Yay!
Alright, can you see me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, got a little food.
No, you don't.
No, I still get comments on people talking about the end of our video.
No, yeah.
You guys are so funny.
Well, here she is, the infamous Kim, aka Kimmy. Any other AKAs that we can
Well, we'll keep
say?
those secret.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. We got questions. We've been traveling a little over 3 years now with the Thousand Trails membership, and we've been loving it. It's saved us a ton of money, but we were wondering, is there anything else out there that we could utilize? Because as a lot of people know, there's not a lot of Thousand Trails in the middle part of America. Still, it's made it very worthwhile, even when we travel through middle America and we have to reserve other places and pay out of pocket. It still makes it well worth it. But it sure would be nice if we didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So, is there anything out there that we could utilize like that?
There definitely is, and that's a fabulous question because Thousand Trails is so well known and so large and so out everywhere. It kind of covers and shadows some of the other things that are available for quote-unquote membership resorts. So the easiest and simplest to revert to that is going to give somebody truly the most is Coast to Coast, and then also RPI, Resort Parks International, because Coast to Coast and RPI are reciprocal memberships. And what that means is just the exact definition of the word reciprocal. They reciprocate all of these membership resorts together, kind of tie the knots and fill in the gaps in between throughout the United States. And Coast to Coast as well as RPI have been around since the 70s. And so they truly are the two largest reciprocal memberships that still are in existence to this day. And so what it is you now have all these other membership resorts. And when you say membership resorts, it's because they're private resorts. They truly do not allow public. You have to own a lifetime membership with one of these parks or another park, wherever, to have a legitimate lifetime membership with one of these parks to be able to now access the other membership parks. And everybody plays nice. You go, I let my members go to your park, you let your members can then come to my park and not have to go around and buy a bunch of memberships and pay a bunch of sets of dues to have more places to stay as backup. And so when you identify and kind of maybe forget a little bit about what you know about Thousand Trails or zone passes or things like that, and just kind of clear the plate to get an understanding. So if I make an investment and buy a lifetime membership with said resort, and I have maybe 3 or 5 parks under the umbrella of this membership, these are the places I can stay for no nightly fees, right? But what about when I leave the area and start traveling where these parks are not? That's why it's important for these resorts to equip someone with Coast to Coast or RPI. So now I'm traveling throughout the United States. I can just one-stop shop, pull up this list of all these nationwide membership properties that I, as a member of the system, have access to go in and stay at. And are there limitations? Of course, because I'm not paying dues to a property. I didn't give them a few grand for membership. So it's not like I have 365 days a year usage, but I could go in and stay for a week or two at a time, and then I pay $10, $15 a night to stay. And then I just go on about my merry way, and I don't owe that resort anything in return. So as far as, are there other options for us to fill in gaps so we don't have to spend nightly fees for state or public parks, which can get costly? You know, there's some very expensive public and state parks, and even 10 nights at $50 a night is $500.
Yeah.
And if I did that 10 times, that's $5,000. So it can easily add up when we try to leave the TT system. If we have 1,000 Trails membership, that's the largest, but still not everywhere. So when you travel through the middle of the United States, you are still going to find that Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, there's still a lot of states out there that to this day, and for the last 50 years of membership resorts, there's literally never been a membership property. And so if you're looking in the coast to coast or the RPI and you don't see a dot or a membership property in a certain city or state, that just truly probably resembles the fact that there just isn't one. And there's no membership you could acquire that would give you any savings. And that's where you just do those national or state or public parks in those areas, because there's still beautiful areas to travel and visit and go through. But just different reasons, state laws, Indian reservations, there's different reasons why membership properties have not always been allowed.
Okay.
So where you find a dot, you find a park, and then you can roll up in there and stay, and you just pay your 10 or 15 a night and stay as a member.
How many parks did you say they have coast to coast?
There's like over 150 nationwide.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to do the math. Depends on how much somebody travels throughout Middle America too. You know, like with 1,000 Trails, it pays for itself really quick.
It's not just Middle America too, because they're all over the United States, even still in your same horseshoe angle around the coasts in the southern, as well as scattered throughout that Middle America or north and you know, up in the Bible Belt and so on. So what if I do have 1,000 Trails, and I love zero nightly fee, and I'm trying to aim my rig towards TT or Encore. There's still at Arizona, it adds 8 or so membership parks in Arizona, Alabama. There's a whole bunch and scattered throughout California, some really nice properties. So even if there's 1,000 Trails under my membership, 30 minutes this way, coast to coast and RPI can still be used as a backup to fill in gaps even in your normal travels, because of having the ability to stay at some other very high-end nice membership properties. And when you say do the math, if you count for $159 yearly dues, so to speak, for coast to coast, if I have a coast to coast property here and a public resort here, and it's $10 a night at this membership park, 30 minutes down the road, there's a public park, and I'll just do low numbers, but just $25 a night for this public park. If I stay for 10 nights and I saved $15 a night, that is still $150. That just paid my dues. And not only did I stay at a membership resort versus public, I now just saved what I would have paid for my dues for the year, and now I have the whole rest of the year to stay in these coast-to-coast properties. My dues are already covered and justified. So it's anything, in essence, used is justified, right? You don't buy an RV and park it in the driveway and pay insurance, but if I was out there using it for half the year, my payments and the math is justified. So it's kind of the same aspect as a 1,000 Trails membership as any membership. If I use it, I'm going to pocket tons of savings.
With the Coast to Coast membership, are there different levels of memberships?
Yeah, there's Classic, Deluxe, and Premier. And so they're just different usage amounts, and resorts can offer their members whatever level in the different memberships they offer. As far as the usage goes, if I have Coast to Coast Classic, I have 2 7-day stays per park per year. If I have Deluxe or Premier, I can stay at every individual resort 2 14-day stays during that resort's peak time. And if they're not in a peak time, I can kind of go on and off 14-day stays per park. And then it has to do with the dollar amount. So classic and deluxe, you have just your $10 a night that you pay when you stay at these other resorts instead of buying a membership and paying dues. I'll pay my $10 a night when I stay. And then they came out with Premier a few years back, and it is much more of a higher level because resorts reciprocate a different way, and they're allowing members to use each other's parks at no nightly fee. So, it's a higher investment a little bit with what we deal with either way. We're talking lower costs on all, but as far as what we have to offer in regards to getting people enrolled, but it does allow a no nightly fee when someone utilizes Coast to Coast or RPI a lot for their travels where maybe they don't have a TT membership or they're traveling in areas where there's not. It just gives them the ability to choose if I feel like the initial investment is worth having no nightly fees always, or you know what, we're just going to use it as backup here and there and fill in gaps. We have another option where we can just invest this dollar amount and we'll just pay our $10 a night as we go. And again, either way, even $10 a night is still very easily justified when you compare it to what might or might not be in the areas that you're traveling that you would have as an alternative option. So yeah, those are the 3 levels. And it's not as confusing as just spewing it out in conversation. I mean, there are the charts, there's the breakdown explanations, there's the, hey, you shoot me an email and I'll send you info and we'll chat about it, or you can call it, and to simplify the usage.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we need to look at.
Yeah.
And because it's a private membership system, it isn't publicly advertised. And it's not easy to find these alternative options. And even when you go to the Coast to Coast website or to the RPI website, it's kind of limited info, and it gives you the ability to view what parks are in what states. But when someone says, how can I be a member? No, you can't just call Coast to Coast or RPI directly and say, hey, can I pay my dues and be a member? It is truly a private membership system, and they'll just tell you, go find a home park. And what that means is you would have to go take a tour or go purchase one of those legitimate lifetime memberships to one of these membership parks in the U.S. to be a member that does offer Coast to Coast in their memberships to you to now be able to go use those other resorts. So there is a little bit of like hoops somebody publicly would have to jump through to even try to get information. And so it becomes this hidden gem, this unknown thing, this thing's not talked about. And when you are a Thousand Trails member, yes, by gosh, it's the biggest membership that exists. It's probably one of the best memberships in the United States. And I have so much, and now I have these no nightly fees. So I kind of tunnel vision in and move our rig along to where these resorts are throughout the United States. But the whole part of putting your house on wheels and rolling and exploring is to be able to go wherever the doggone rig takes us, right?
That's
You
right.
don't have to just go to these locations to budget. And so when you start exploring more parts of the country, or even some of the same states you've been in under TT, and you now open up this box of all these dots of more places that we can aim our rig towards, and we can go off and explore to the left or to the right. And we didn't have plans to do that this year. And even though there's a small nightly fee, we're still budgeting big time, and we're still able to keep our costs in place and in check, and be able to afford to continue to keep our house on wheels.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's important to understand that, yes, there are absolutely more options that are out there to give you something more that's a very affordable option, like throwing a spare tire on the back of your rig. It's not something you're dumping thousands into acquiring. It's recoupable very quickly, and then you've got it for the rest of your lifetime because it's a legitimate lifetime membership to access other properties. What parks in Coast to Coast? Like, where are these other locations? And you have private membership resorts, Colorado River Adventure Resorts out west. You have Travel Resorts of America. You have K&M Resorts. You have Outdoor Adventure Resorts based out of like Michigan. And so even these individual resorts, not only on the Coast to Coast website and viewing what parks are included, and you click on each resort and identify it, these are like Thousand Trails. These are home park membership companies, and you can go to Colorado River Adventure Resort. You can go to Outdoor Adventure Resorts, Travel Resorts of America, K&M Resorts, and you can view these resorts and these companies and see what these properties are like and these other resorts that we can utilize and stop at and visit throughout our travels in the United States. So just as well as viewing what's on the Coast to Coast website or RPI's website, just know, just like Thousand Trails has their own website, these other companies have their own as well that help give you information on their parks. And because they are private membership systems, you know, they're going to be a little evasive, but at least to see what my park looks like, what amenities are there, what the address and location is specifically, get an idea of what you're dealing with and what your options are. And so when it comes to the different costs involved, it's specific to like Coast to Coast Deluxe, Coast to Coast Premier, Coast to Coast just the basic and the classic. And so to be able to share that information with you based on your needs, that's something that when you just email for me for information on and what your options are, then I'll be able to send that visually, have everything broken down for you, and send the charts of benefits and help more specifically than just explaining it all in a video. Yeah. And so just reach out to ask for more information, and you can ask questions via email. You can also request me to give you a call. I'm a little slower on calls at times, and just appreciate your patience with me, but I'm usually very communicative through email. So any information due to price, dues, benefits, we'll get all that over to you if you just request it.
I think it's important for people to know a little bit of your background, because you're not some salesperson out there just trying to sell these. You've full-time RV'd for many years.
Our dad has been in the industry for over 40-something years, and we were raised as kids growing up kind of traveling all over the U.S. these parks in the summer times. And then when I was early 20s and my boys were 1 and 2, I went up to a park for a summer where my dad was at and never left. And I full-time for over 15 years, kind of raised 3 kids in an RV and been trucking around the U.S. And my brother Chad, who owns our company, had always been here in one location and assisting with resales throughout the membership system. And then we kind of switched roles. And so I came off the road, and he sold the house, has no home address except for the office, and has now been almost 6 years full time. He uses the same thing that we help you go into. We're members, we pay dues, we live, eat, and breathe what we help you go into. And Chad's been trucking all over the United States, east to west, north to south, that disappears at times. And all he uses is his Thousand Trails and, of course, Encore. And then he does have RPI and Coast to Coast as well. For a lot of he spends a few months out of the year in the middle of the U.S., as we've been talking about, because we have family in Michigan and Wisconsin and Indiana. And so he loves that type of atmosphere. He loves the north in the warmer months, obviously, when it's not a frozen tundra. But those combinations of what we're sharing with you that are available, and help make you aware that there's some other really great options to intertwine together in the most affordable way without going around and buying a bunch of memberships, is because that's what we use and that's what we have, and we're actively using it, not just past tense like myself, but it's just great to know that there's more than just this.
So there's a couple questions that we get asked a lot, and it seems like it's people that's got a zone pass. Regardless of what zone it's in, they've only tried just a few of the Thousand Trails parks. It might be one that's older. As you know, anything that gets old, it wears out, it needs updating, in which Thousand Trails is doing a lot of updates to a lot of their parks, and they're just not impressed because they're kind of going to some of these ones that they're just starting to work on. And so we try to tell them, that it's not like that everywhere. Once you get traveling, you start to find all the ones to stay at as you're traveling. This is like in Texas, and stayed at Lake Whitney, and it was going through a lot of improvements. It had a lot of potholes in the in the roads and stuff, but they're working on the updates. Then we went down the road south of there to Lake Conroe, and it's like the poster child of, what all the
so nice.
all the updated parks are going to be like, and it was really nice. So as you're traveling and you find some of these older ones, we tell them, this is what you're going to find out. A zone pass, you don't really see that because you're only seeing one section, and it's not telling the whole story. That's what we found over the 3+ years, that we know the ones, to go to and the ones to kind of stay away from if we can, until they get them updated. They're testing these zone passes to see if it's worth it to them to buy, a more expensive membership with all the parks. So I guess, what else can we tell them?
So, being that I have for so many years interacted with thousands, right? I mean, you really have to understand, if I'm going to just be blunt, it's perspective. And unfortunately, if someone was maybe given a zone pass with their RV purchase, right, and they were given a free zone pass for the year, or they come across Thousand Trails online, and really the only information that you discover first is the zone passes available, and they click and they acquire a zone pass. Not having an understanding or education or an awareness about what memberships really are, it can be a little confusing. And then your perspective of memberships is now based on a yearly pass. It has nothing to do with, in the big spectrum of things, of the last 50 years of what membership properties are. And the value in a zone pass is tenfold. The value of an upgraded membership is tenfold. Even you guys now being out there 3 years, if you account it, you're full time. You are 365 days a year in my house on wheels. We don't have a no nightly fee place to go that we call home, which isn't no nightly fee. We pay mortgage and stuff anyway, but we're in full time. If those 365 days a year for the last 3 years were with no membership of any kind, would it be affordable to be out there on retirement? Is even 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks a night times 100 is 2, 3, 4, 5,000 times 3. Now I'm paying up to $15,000 a year easily in nightly fees. It still can now be dissected down to $1,000 a month. I mean, it's still affordable even traveling out there publicly. So if I acquire a $500-$600 pass that gives me a handful of parks in this area to utilize, even if it is one of the more rundown locations, so are a lot of state and public parks in the United States. And if I'm staying at no nightly fee versus $10 or $20 or $30 a night, I am still continuously saving money, right? A 1 or 2 week stay at no nightly fee anywhere versus 30 bucks a night anywhere is the amount I paid for this pass that I have the whole year. I have 50 more weeks that year to use. You cannot tell me that there's not easy to justify benefits in any kind of something that gives me no nightly fee places to stay. And to touch on why some might be run down and this might be run down, I see a lot of very harsh and just interesting verbiage online about that. And if you come back, sit down, take a breath, grab a cup of coffee, and understand who Equity Lifestyles is and what they have done since acquiring what. Well, there was a really low time in the industry 15, 16 years ago or so. Gas was $6 or more a gallon. The RV sales throughout the United States were at the lowest ever in history. People weren't buying memberships, they weren't paying dues, and a lot of these resorts throughout the United States really started to struggle. Now you have Thousand Trails at the time who owned the most since the 70s. They owned 60 parks. They didn't have 1 or 5 to maintain. People weren't paying dues, you're not buying memberships, we don't allow public, so what do? They were really struggling. And so here comes Equity Lifestyles, who's known for this large chain of public parks, some very beautiful high-end locations in certain areas. They have some amazing encore parks. They also have some regular standard right off the highway, cement lot parks, but so do other state and public properties in the U.S. And so they come in and they have a manufacturing company. They're very financially well off, and they buy Thousand Trails. Then they buy Outdoor World, who over 30 years owned 14, 16 properties on the East Coast. Then they bought Mid-Atlantic, that was also struggling, and there's 7 properties over 30 years on the East Coast. So now Equity Lifestyles owns over 80 membership parks, and they have 187 public parks, and not one membership company in the United States owns public parks as well. So now we have all this that we're responsible for, and it's proven fact, and I guess available to view publicly online as Equity Lifestyles as a company. You can view all of their financial statuses and what they do and put out, and they truly do dump millions into these resorts every year since they've owned them. So by any means, Thousand Trails is definitely on an incline versus any kind of decline.
Agreed.
And it's just, they're going to get to the most used and larger or more popular parks first, and they'll get to some of the others. But you guys now being out there 3 years, I'm sure you've revisited a resort that was different from the first time.
Yeah.
I get that feedback all these years where, newly paved roads, new pools, new clubhouses, a whole bunch of more sites, a whole rental cabin part of it. There's a lot of stuff that they do, and you can roll up on a park and, they dumped a couple mil into this resort. Where? I don't see anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's all underground. It was all sewage systems. It was 50 amp instead of 30. It was enhancements underground that you don't realize that they did.
Yeah.
So say what you will, and sure, there's going to be parks that you may not want to go to that I may love. I may like the more rustic, the more not a lot of activities. You may want your paved roads and a lot of activities. So the fact that you have the variety. Now, if we're on the whole Thousand Trails membership, whether I have a zone pass or an upgraded membership, one zone or nationwide, I'm going to have my own checklist. I have the absolute largest membership that exists in the United States, period. And if there's 10 or 20 parks that I don't like, never get to, won't go back to, I still have 6 to 10 times the largest membership that exists in the United States. So I just really think a lot of everything out there, as we all learn, is truly perspective. And the whole glass half full thing, to be honest, because there's still 2 options. When I roll out in this RV and start my travels, whether I'm part-time or full-time, I only have 2 options. I pay for state, public, or private locations, privately owned locations, or I have some type of membership that allows me some type of discount or no nightly fee or something. That's why people purchase Passport America or Good Sam. Why? So they get a discount off of public parks that are out there. So no matter what, I still either pay or I have some type of discount or no nightly fee. And that's all there is to it. And that's what you guys are out here helping people discover is, well, if I don't want this option of paying nightly fees in places and I'm discovering that memberships are available, help me understand what options should I get? What memberships are good for me? Of course, we're going to go to Thousand Trails first because they're the largest, they're the best, they're the most affordable, and there. And then we say, well, what else? What else? No, we don't need to go around and buy a bunch of memberships, but we could acquire coast to coast. We have RPI. We can use these other places throughout the U.S. to continue keeping our money in our bank before having to do public or state or other resorts with nightly fees. And that's literally all it comes down to. So complain if you wish, or just keep it moving. Like if I don't like this part, mark it off and
Right.
keep going, because 2-week stay pays your dues for the whole day gone year.
I know.
Right.
And there's no other way around it.
Right.
And it's just go out there, have fun, because the handful of people that love to be negative online, or maybe don't understand memberships or don't understand what they have no comparison to the literally thousands and thousands of members that are out there cruising the U.S., just absolutely understanding the savings and enjoying it and being able to afford to be out there. My brother Chad was supposed to go for a year or two. It is almost 6 years later, and I haven't seen him since. Do you think you could do that without a whole bunch of big green zeros or 10 or 15 bucks a night? No,
Yeah.
because it's all about retirement and living affordably. And if I have something in my repertoire that allows me to not release funds often, that's the longer I get to stay. That's the more wheels get to roll. And I think that's really how you should simplify it. I think just being blunt. I just think everybody should just look at it in that perspective.
Once you're using Thousand Trails membership for quite a while, and then you have to go out of it, like when we're going back to Iowa, and then we stay at these places for $40 and $60 a night that are in worse condition than most of them. Any Thousand Trails, it's like it's kind of like ow. You
Yeah.
know, it's like
Ow.
it's like gosh, we're
And
dumping
it
all
adds
this
up,
money
It
into
adds up so daggone fast.
It
It
does.
does.
You know, I always use the math of just 10 nights because,
Yeah.
you know, 20
Right.
bucks a night, 40 bucks a night, 200, 400. It just adds up very fast. So I just think overall that to understand that there are options out there to help you, to know that I can full-time affordably. If I'm already been out there and I didn't know memberships existed, you know, just reach out. I will send you information, whether it is on Thousand Trails, whether you specifically want more details on alternative options like Coast to Coast or RPI. Just definitely here to help and get those materials visually in front of you, and even verbally discuss and assist or answer questions via email. And just know that there's definitely options out there, and you've got somebody who's got your back to help you and provide that information. And, you know, Brian and Michelle, you guys are proof. It's not 1 month out there full time. Hey, we got a membership through Kim. She helped us. We've been rolling our journey together as friends, as family for almost 3 years now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, as a normal person who's not just the YouTuber, that I can email Kim, I can text Kim with questions, I can call her with questions. We can reach out when we need help, when we feel we want more, or we didn't even understand we had this other whole part to our membership with TT. And you know that we've been this communication all along, that's how you find help. Reach out to Brian and Michelle, ask them questions. Reach out to Kim, ask questions, and we'll find answers for you one way or another.
Definitely.
All right. Anybody has any questions at all, we'll put Kim's email address up here. Send her an email, or you can go to our website, livingourvision.com, over to our resources page, and there's a contact form there too, whichever is easier for you. But all right. Well, thanks again,
Thanks,
Kim. We
Kimmy.
really appreciate your time today.
I love it. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
We appreciate you.
as well.
Thanks
All
for
right.
letting me help.
Time to call it a day.
Let's call it a day.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, click that little bell, and hit that thumbs up. See you next week.